tonight.
The politician's theme song. It's Michael Patrick Shields the morning after the summer primary election at Oakland University right now with Dave Dulio, the director of the Center for Civic Engagement here at Oakland U, professor in the Political Science Department. Thank you for being here, first off, so early like this.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Any big surprises that you noticed yesterday in the various elections across the state?
Nothing terribly surprising. I think Mayor Duggan's sizable victory, far out ahead of the competition in the Detroit mayoral, is noteworthy. Mm-hmm. I think the failure of Proposal P in Detroit by that margin.
What was that?
It was 2-1 against
Mm-hmm.
the charter revision. I think that's also noteworthy, although probably not surprising.
What does that mean statewide? What happened exactly?
Oh, for the Proposal P,
yeah.
the city of Detroit had created a charter revision committee that had worked for several years on drafting a proposal to revise the charter on a whole host of different issues. And it was there was some controversy over the last couple of months where the governor did not support it, and there were questions whether or not it was actually ever going to be on the ballot. It had to go to the Supreme Court.
Who's the loser in this?
The Charter Revision Committee. The mayor was against it. There were a number of other entities that I guess, and it goes back, like I said, 3 years to when this revision committee was created. I think with at least some grassroots support, but then with some of the controversy, with some of the uncertainty that surrounded it, I think that's what led to the resounding defeat of that initiative.
So Mike Duggan, big winner in the primary, likely in the general?
Oh, I think so, for sure.
And in Lansing, we have our mayor, Andy Shore, a close one there. He's in the general with one of the more colorful members of the city council. So that'll be fun, and it's not Verge Bernero anymore, but
no.
He'll put his toe back in the water for a minute. And Kathy Dunbar versus... Well, that'll be colorful to watch. As a talk show host, that's my kind of thing.
There you go. There's lots of fodder for the next couple of months with that one.
And to speak locally, did Representative Greimel win his primary?
He is. He garnered more than 50% in the Pontiac mayoral primary.
That means he'll win the general, right?
That would be my assumption. Although you never know, right? The way dynamics can shift over time, even in a short period of time, like between now and November. But that would be my prognostication.
So here's an example of dogs and cats living together peacefully here. We've got Governor Gretchen Whitmer and Congressman Fred Upton from St. Joe, a Democrat and a Republican. I guess there was a groundbreaking ceremony in a new workforce housing development in Benton Harbor to support Whirlpool yesterday. And it wasn't that long ago on the program that we heard Gretchen Whitmer actually sort of singing the praises of Congressman Fred Upton, and here it is.
You know, Fred Upton has survived for a long period of time, and Fred has not changed. The party has changed, and I think it's harder and harder for moderate Republicans to call the GOP home. Fred Upton's done a great job, and I hope he's got a long career ahead of him.
Dave Dulio, did the governor throw Fred Upton a bouquet or a bomb?
Both. There is. She's right about Fred Upton in the way he has approached things, and his time in Congress has been very consistent. The way he has approached issues, the way he has tried to work with both sides of the aisle. Yet at the same time, she takes a pretty big swipe at the Republican Party in the same statement, right? And saying that it's the party that's changed, and the party is. When I hear that, that's a pretty big knock on a lot of Republicans. And Fred's different, which he is, but the Republican Party's still bad. That's what I hear when I hear those words.
Yeah, and I just wonder if Fred Upton, Congressman Upton might be concerned about being outflanked to the right in the primary when the governor is supporting him, and then that gives them all the fodder they need, right?
It does, and this wouldn't be the first time that Congressman Upton faced a primary challenge or felt some pressure from the right. I think that the 2022 cycle you're going to see that in both parties, challenges from the extremes, and we're seeing some mixed results of that in primaries around the country, in some special elections that are coming up and that we've just had, and there's been mixed results. Sometimes we see, for instance, a Trump-backed Republican primary candidate win. Other times, those Trump-backed candidates lose.
But that Harbor Shores redevelopment program there that Whirlpool has put together for Benton Harbor is fantastic, and it's nice to see that it's still getting expansion because all politics is local, as we know. The governor urging everybody to get the vaccine. In fact, Brian Calley, one of your trustees, was there today or will be to give away another $50,000 or some of the lottery prizes for the vaccine. But here's the governor yesterday at that groundbreaking in Benton Harbor, and she's talking about how the cases continue to rise.
When you look at what's happening in the South, when you look at our own hospitals, it is largely the unvaccinated that are getting sick and being hospitalized and sadly dying from this disease.
And more details about why people need to get the shots.
We have the best tool to fight COVID, and it is easy to access, and it is free, and it is safe, and that is the vaccines. This is a miracle of modern science. It is a gift from God if you're a person of faith.
The governor got a couple of gifts from the Republicans, it seems to me. One of them is her ability to now say, well, the GOP took away my powers, so I really can't put any restrictions in anymore, and so get the vax. And in a re-elect year, she doesn't want to be shutting people down again, right?
She does not, and I think that maybe I'm cynical, but I see politics everywhere, and I see political factors in almost every decision that's out there, and it's hard not to notice the stark differences between now and a year ago, or even just a few months ago, in how the governor's approaching these decisions, and that's not a criticism or a compliment. That's
observation.
It's just a fact that there are differences of strategy now, and I think that it's hard not to notice that. And I think the public is out there too, saying, "All right, well, you told me one thing a few months ago," and just in the pushback that we see on the recent CDC recommendation for kids going back to school. Certainly the differences across the country in the way governors are handling it, and in Democratic states, we're seeing very different activity than we are here in Michigan, another Democratic-controlled state, at least in the governor's mansion. And it's hard not to notice that, well, we're coming up on a campaign cycle here.
How do we know who to trust if that's the case?
That's a much harder question to answer today than it was 18 months ago, right? Because we're supposed to trust the, and we'll use air quotes here, the experts, right?
The science.
The science. But that is being challenged. I think there are legitimate questions to ask those experts, because even some of them have changed their tune. They have seemed to have talked out of both sides of their mouth at different points, right? I think it's...
And we're learning along the way here at Oakland University. We'll continue with Dave Dulio here in Rochester in a flash. Is your tomorrow going to include Andrew Cuomo as the governor of New York? We're about to find out some analysis of that from Dave Dulio, the director of the Center for Civic Engagement at Oakland University, professor in the political science department, who surely was listening, reading, and watching the news yesterday of the report that came out about Governor Cuomo. I noticed the President of the United States said that the governor ought to resign. Is that unusual for never mind they're the same party, but for a president to come out that strong against a governor?
Well, I think the president's statement yesterday was, his hand was forced by a statement not that long ago as that investigation was beginning, when he said, if it turns out that it's discovered or uncovered or found out that the governor did this, he should resign. So it would be, he put himself in a box with that first statement, right? But
Bill Clinton never would have done that.
No, he would not have. And I also think too that it's in the world in which we live today, to not make that statement from that the president made would put him in a tough spot with some of his constituency.
Let's hear exactly what the president said yesterday.
I think he should resign. State legislature may decide to impeach. I don't know that for fact. I've not read all that data.
This sort of speaks to what we were speaking about a minute ago about who to trust. And the reason I say that is you've got the governor's brother, Chris Cuomo, involved in this. He has that talk show right in prime time on CNN. And he said not a word yesterday about this on the talk show, Chris Cuomo. People were speaking for him, right? But because they said that Chris Cuomo actually put words in his brother's mouth to try to talk his way out of it.
He helped write a statement that the governor made or put out a while back regarding this controversy. I think that it's hard not to see a conflict of interest on Chris Cuomo's side, right? He's supposed to be reporting. He's supposed to be the arbiter of truth. He's supposed to be the one that we trust to tell us what's happening, and yet he's working behind the scenes to help his brother out, obviously a politician, right, who's in some trouble. I think it's hard to see how Governor Cuomo survives this. But, we do have evidence from recent years of another Democratic governor just digging his heels in and surviving a pretty bad public relations battle, right? Ralph Northam in Virginia came out. He was in blackface in a yearbook picture, or wearing a KKK hood in that same yearbook picture. He tells us he couldn't remember which one it was him. He admits that he was one of those two, but doesn't remember. And he faced obvious pressure to resign. And what did he do? He just said, no, I'm not doing it. And he survived. Maybe that's the tack that Cuomo takes, and maybe it works.
Maybe that's why people keep talking about what the governor did, what Governor Cuomo did is actually a crime.
Very possible. And there seems to be some push for criminal investigation or criminal charges that could come forth with this that would give the state legislature even more fodder to be able to remove him via impeachment.
He's going to reelect soon too, though, right?
I think so, and that it's hard to see how that goes well, right? I mean, the number of people who would want to be governor of New York would come out and use that against him, and you'd think it would be pretty effective.
What about the publishing company that put his book out?
They probably should be asked
off the shelves now, or what do we do?
Well, if it was,
I don't like that idea. But
that I don't either. However, it would follow a pattern of past behavior by publishing houses who are critical of some of their authors, and they take those away.
It speaks to what we were saying earlier about free speech and consequences and the climate that we're in
Absolutely.
right now.
Yep.
Interesting. Mike Rogers, the former congressman, was a frequent guest on this program when he was in office, and a very lively one, and I understand that you have a very, very special relationship with him.
We do. We have the Mike Rogers Congressional Collection here on campus at Kresge Library. When he announced his retirement, we approached his office and asked him if he would be interested in donating his congressional papers to the institution, and he jumped at the chance. We have a sizable collection of papers and artifacts and photos from Mike Rogers' time in office over in Kresge Library. Folks can come on campus and check it out. And he's been on campus many times, both in office and when he's been out of office. He's actually going to come back in about a month. We'll have him as part of an event dedicated to the 20th anniversary of the 9/11 terrorist attacks. As you know, having a close relationship with him, he has deep ties to that historic day, a day that changed the world. He was in Congress at the time. He went on to serve as House Intelligence Committee chair. So if there's any former member who knows a lot about 9/11 and what happened, both on that day and then the aftermath, it's Mike Rogers. He is going to be joined by our current Congresswoman Alyssa Slotkin. They're going to come together, a Democrat, Republican, to talk about 9/11.
Succeeded him with one skip.
There was one in the middle there. Yes, Mike Bishop. But they're going to come to campus and talk about 9/11, what happened, why it happened, the
they
response.
both have the chops for it, too.
They certainly do. Also, as you know, Alyssa Slotkin was recruited to be in the CIA not long after 9/11. So they both have these ties to that date. And it's also, I think, really important for us to do this. To mark that anniversary. 20 years is a long time. And that mark has really never left. I lived in Washington at the time, and my wife and I could see the smoke from the Pentagon from our apartment building that day. And that image will never leave me. And there are a lot of folks around the country who have, that's one of those days you know where you were. You remember where you were. Even more important to do it on a college campus because...
And that's where we are right now at Oakland University with Dave Dulio and Michael Patrick Shields. A great thank you to Oakland University for hosting me today here on Michigan's Big Show, starring Michael Patrick Shields, radio stations across the state of Michigan. We're in Rochester. And Dave Dulio, thank you again. I'm not only in the student union here right now broadcasting, I'm staying in the dorm. I'm going to have campus life today, and it's an absolute gas. And you are the Director of Civic Engagement at Oakland University here in the Political Science Department. And Brian Beerley, we want to thank him, too, for all that he has done. And I know that you have the Mike Rogers Congressional Library. Mm-hmm. Have you ever seen the Brian Beerley Presidential Library?
I've only heard
Waterford?
stories.
I got to see it, some of it. You know, he can't put the whole collection out.
He can't, no.
They only put a portion of it.
He holds it back,
I presume it rotates. You know, there's different exhibits that go on. But he's got things, Brian Beerley does, that I didn't even think, regular citizens can have. Locks of hair of George Washington and handwriting from presidents and so forth.
He is an intense presidential historian.
It's amazing.
I call him a nutcase, right? Because,
yeah,
but I think that kind of fits, right? I mean,
term.
It is. He's passionate about it. I kid with the nutcase, but I've not seen many people more passionate about presidential history than Brian Beerley. He travels around the country going to presidential libraries. I think that is, as somebody who's interested in civic engagement, right? What a great example of what you can do in learning about history and making it relevant for today, right? When he goes and visits these places, he always comes back and tells me about the nuggets that he uncovers.
So should we not at Oakland University have the collection here somewhere?
I think we should.
Maybe it can't be a room, maybe it can be a trophy case.
There you go.
Brian Beerley trophy case.
I see a number of different places here in the Oakland Center where it would be terrific to display it.
There we go. Okay, so do we have to raise money for this? What do we have to do?
The donor's sitting right next to us.
For those who do want to come, and can anyone come and see Mike Rogers and Alyssa Slotkin when you have them?
Absolutely. We'll have some details on our
website?
on the OU website in the coming days. We're not quite ready to put it out there just yet, but check back with us. Center for Civic Engagement at Oakland University. With a quick Google will give you our website. We'll have information on how to register for that coming up. And I'll also say too that folks around the state that can't make it to Rochester, we're going to have a live version. We'll also stream it as well for folks to enjoy.
Well, it's cutting edge here at Oakland University in Rochester. Michael Patrick Shields, all across Michigan.